So we're back with Jim Burns of Avatage. This is the after party discussion we do after the show, and I'm really pleased to have Jim to continue to share some insights. So what are the kinds of things that would really empower salespeople to be more effective and win a larger percentage of deals? What are some of the techniques that you recommend that companies use to empower those salespeople?
If you think about the life of a salesperson, the first question to ask a marketer is what percentage of leads are salespeople generating versus provided exclusively by marketing? In most organizations, it's actually north of 50%. But they do not have content engines, they don't have webinars, they don't have microsites and websites, they don't have the kind of marketing automation tools that marketers have. Basically, they have a phone and email. So how do we enable salespeople to do their portion of lead gen? Secondly, the premise behind all good content is today content has to answer the questions that buyers have that they've got to get answered to buy from anybody. And we need to extend that down into the later stage areas so that marketers take responsibility to really understand those questions. My view is it's their responsibility to understand the customer and then convey that information to the salespeople, and along with it, providing content that answers those questions. And those two elements are going to take us an awful long way to driving the ultimate goal, which is converting, won deals, selling without discounting too deeply, and growing revenue.
It's interesting, Jim, and I think you're right that it really requires a lot of planning. Now, you said a lot about the importance of relevant content, of content that engages prospective buyers. How do people, and some of the data I've seen from Marketing Sherpa and others say that's something that companies really struggle with, that they create content, but it's not relevant. How do you recommend companies go about creating better, more relevant content for buyers?
Again, the planning starts with understanding the question customers have to answer. You can't dwell on that too much. I will say that in the last 2 years working with clients and talking to prospects, there's very, very few have a good answer to that, and almost no one has it documented. So if it's not documented, I would argue it doesn't exist, because you can't share it. You can't use it as a basis for determining what content to build and how to build it. So it really starts there. But then on the creation side, what we discovered a long time ago, primarily by accident, was that a highly modular approach to creating video content using narrated animated graphics and segments of video and building it out in a very modular manner was a faster, cheaper, and easier way to build relevant content. And that sounds that sounds like it doesn't make sense because of the way most people think about building video, which is the traditional approach. Get out the cameras, get out the lighting, and go shoot someone. In telling stories, what we've found is I need to tell a short version and a longer version at the early to nurturing stage. I need to be able to make it relevant to the different personas. I need to be able to tell it in the context of an industry or a competitive situation. In other words, I have a lot of different variations on the way that I want to tell that story. So the ability to that becomes really hard to do in a scalable way and that assembly way in a text only manner. And so we've found that a highly modular animated graphic with audio and animated and narrated over video is an incredibly, it's just a huge breakthrough and actually faster, easier, and cheaper way to build out highly relevant content. And when our customers first hear that, it doesn't make sense. It's counterintuitive, but once they experience it and see it, it's a huge breakthrough. And that approach even lets you maintain that content, which is our commitment because we're looking to move content from being an expense to being an asset.
That's interesting, and I like what you're doing with video. I think video is really the wave of the future. That especially with tablets and devices that can show video that are very portable, and people enjoy watching video. You know, with the popularity of YouTube and everything else, it's just for most companies they see it as cost prohibitive. You know, that they hire a film crew and they do this thing, it could cost them $50,000 to create a 5-minute video. It just doesn't scale at all. So I'm intrigued by your idea of doing it less expensively.
Yeah, and not just $50,000, $5,000. It won't scale. And a year ago, I heard the global senior vice president for marketing for Salesforce.com talk about their video strategy. They've produced over 3,000 videos. Think about it, 3,000 videos. But they equated a year ago to 46 uber active salespeople having conversations every day because they were getting 76,000 video views. I don't even know what it is today, a year later. And this is something that small companies can do that can really give us a huge advantage because, one, I think we're closer to the customer than marketers in very large companies. Two, we can figure out something really insightful and valuable to our audiences. And three, build it out as compelling, engaging video content that can stand up with the content of anyone else. So it really gives us a huge advantage in my view.
I think it's interesting that your comment that even small companies can do this now. You know, I think it doesn't take a massive amount of resources. A big company, IBM's got 100 billion in revenue, and they can hire a huge staff and spend a lot of money. But you know, a 15-person company doesn't have those kinds of resources. So what you're saying is, so what? A small company can actually do these kinds of things, right?
Yeah, and it really comes back to that publishing idea of preparation, and preparation really means what is it that we can contribute? Where are there gaps in the conversations going on around the topics that we play into? Where can we bring a unique perspective? If what we're saying is the same as everyone else, for example, in our space, if we're just talking about content marketing, what we've looked at is, well, how do you apply content marketing and actually create content like a publisher? Many of the pundits are actually not day-to-day practicing to get down into the dirty areas of how do I apply this concept and actually get it done. So we've looked at that and said we can make a contribution in that area. We can look at crack low-cost ways to build out high-level videos in huge scale. You know, so if you want to build 150 videos, that's a great question to put to your video production company, and they're going to choke. They're going to probably get really excited because they see the dollars running by, but then they're going to choke because they don't have a process that can address that. And so those are examples of where we looked at our space and said, areas we can contribute a lot of valuable insight.
That's good, Jim. And one thing, I've known you for a long time, and one you're always good is planning and asking those deep questions. And I think that more important than ever, to take the time, especially, you know, as we start off a new year, to take the time to really understand those buyers, to really understand what their problems are, you know, really understand what's going on in their business and what their issues are. So, and pick up the phone and call them, talk to them. You know, I think that's really the opportunity.
Yeah, and especially I think your point about the new year, I was doing some planning over the last 2 days, and we're going to go do this. And the reason is I don't want to assume that my understanding of customers and our target buyers, you know, the last time we had space to go do that 6, 9, 12 months ago, is relevant going into next year. So this is a great opportunity to spend a few days and really go back and check and verify and ask, what are the issues you're dealing with today? Not just at the really high levels, although that's important as a starter, But as it gets down into, okay, what's really causing those issues? What's getting in the way of you being successful resolving those higher level problems? And what's the information that you're looking for? Where do you look for it? So I talk about publishing and the need to syndicate. Begs the question, syndicate where? You got to know where your buyers are going to look for information. And so we can't assume that because we've been in business for 20 years, it's changing too quickly. There's too many new channels coming around. People are learning and adopting at different rates. Some industries are barely coming online with this, and others are incredibly mature. So we have to really understand our ideal customer. Who do we want to focus on? And that's a moving target. And then what makes them an ideal customer? What are the questions they have? What's the information they're looking for, so that we know what to go build? It's a selection issue. That's why planning is so important. It's really, can I pick the right topics, information, deliver against those topics that's going to make the difference.
This has been good stuff, Jim. I really appreciate it. And Jack Welch once said to one of his executives is, go talk to customers. They don't lie to you. And I think that's a good takeaway for this. So anyway, Jim, thank you. You've been a great guest on the show, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future.
Thanks for inviting me, and wish you and your audience a great new year.